Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to our 25th anniversary of Comp Institute. I have to say I think this is my 20th year coming to the Comp Institute. The first 15 as a customer and the last 5 as an employee with the Workers Compensation Board. And I've always enjoyed the event, and we hope that you enjoy the next 2 days with us as we talk safety. Kurt, thank you so much for sharing your story. A couple things I took away from that was first the Rough Rider reference with the melon heads, for sure. I think that's a fair statement. If you see a guy at the Mosaic Stadium wearing a ring head, a big giant Grey Cup ring on his head, that might be me. It's something that my son and I do and enjoy many Rough Rider games together. Kurt, also, I really like the reference you talked about competence as part of your presentation. And in my role, I get to work with and meet a number of folks internationally as it relates to health and safety. And this past October, had the opportunity to speak with our colleagues in Germany. And they were talking about competence. And so I took the time to ask them what they meant by competence. How do they define it? And it was really interesting. It was kind of an aha moment for me because they said competence and safety is the ability to actually drive a safety change in the workplace. And that's how they approach their training. And so I hope that as part of this conference, you at least take one thing away from it and try and go back to the workplace and actually implement it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I think the learning for me is that how you approach safety and implement safety really does matter. And I hope you see that throughout our strategy document as we go through the presentation here. Kurt, also you talked about a number of factors that influenced your serious injury, and that's definitely true. I think you'll see in the statistics how flatlined our fatalities and serious injuries really are. We have the same number essentially every single year in this province, haven't made a dent in it. And that's because they're complex. And I found it interesting speaking with a large construction company down in the US last fall, and their approach to hazard recognition and talking about the sticky hazards. And they spelt it STKY. And these serious injuries really are complex. And the reason why they call them sticky is the stuff that kills you. And that's the stuff that a lot of leading edge companies are starting to focus in on, is really understanding the severity related to serious injuries. Now, somebody took the clicker for the presentation. Oh, it's over here. So I'm forced to walk the stage. I didn't know they were going to have a fashion show stage, but I did wear my shoes for the occasion, I think. But I'll probably stick to the podium because I did grow up in the 80s as well. And if you ever had that uncle that didn't know how to tape a VHS or a VCR tape, I'm kind of that guy today. So I got to stick to my notes a bit. So I do want to talk about the current state. When you think about injuries in this province, we've got a lot to celebrate about. And Minister Morgan did talk about this at the beginning when he opened up the day. We've seen about a reduction of about 50% in our claims over the last 20 or so years. It's really fantastic, and really that is the result of all of the employers in this room, unions, workers, and the like, working together to really drive these numbers down. I do want to thank our partners who helped develop the strategy that's on your tables. This is a WorkSafe Saskatchewan document, and again, that is the partnership between the Ministry of Labour Relations and Workplace Safety and the Workers Compensation Board. Also want to recognize Mission Zero, which was rolled out in 2008. Again, that was really our call to action as a province to drive down injuries and try to get to zero. And I think through this strategy, perhaps 0 fatalities 1 year in this province, maybe that's our first milestone to help us get to Mission Zero. Now, I do want to share some more stats. We'll talk about the why behind this strategy and why we want to focus in on fatalities and serious injuries. And again, if you look at our total injury rate in this province, and if you go back to 2010, you'll see that we had a 53% reduction, really tremendous. But if you look at 2017 and beyond, you're going to start to see that it's flatlined a bit. We are starting to see signs of plateau. We even saw our total injury rate increase in 2 of the last 5 years. And just for those in the room, if you don't know how we calculate that number, really it is our time loss claims and our medical aid claims, and then we calculate a rate based on 100 workers. But this was a cause for concern for us, and in 2017 we started to do some research and started reaching out to other jurisdictions in Europe and the US. It's something that many industries are starting to face in many jurisdictions, and the research came back that the need to focus on reducing fatalities and serious injuries as the way to break through that plateau. The reasoning behind that is the solutions that are required to really solve these stubborn injuries are going to kind of have that broad approach. It allows the staff to be more attuned and to understanding safety and risk in the workplace. But despite this graph and the success that you see here, there's always 2 sides to every story. And so at the beginning of our presentation here this morning, Minister Morgan did talk about the number of serious injuries that we see in this province. And I found it kind of interesting, a 53% reduction in total injury rate. But if you look at our serious injuries, it's pretty constant, right? About 2,400 every single year. Hasn't changed. We have made a small dent. We did roll out our first strategy in 2019, which was a 3-year strategy. We saw a small drop, about 10% reduction, which I think is success in itself. But there is a lot more to do and a lot more to get done. Again, this is our time loss and fatality graph as well. You can see that every single year we have roughly 38 to 39 fatalities. You go back 10 years, it's the same thing every year. We had 39 last year, in fact. For those of you in the Regina area will notice that we had another fatality at the airport here over the weekend. And so likely to hit that number again this year, unfortunately. But if you think in this province, today, 50 people will be injured at work. Half of those people will not return to work tomorrow, and 6 of those people may never return to work at all. And every 10 days, somebody's killed. And so that really is the why behind this document. There's a lot of work to do, and I think the solutions are in this room. And but that pales in comparison. When you look globally, when we talk to our partners, you might be surprised to know that roughly 8,000 people are killed at work every single day across the globe due to unsafe condition or an occupational disease. And that includes developing countries, of course. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is we're not the only ones trying to solve these issues. We're not alone. I think that if we can build a strong enough network and bring together the right experts to tackle the right issues, I think that's where we're going to see success. So again, we rolled out our first strategy in 2019, just before COVID. It was a 3-year strategy. We had specific targets and focus industries, and we also focused on some of the leading causes as well. And we achieved several of our targets. I'll just point out a couple of them. Firefighter cancer prevention was one of them. Asbestos awareness, serious injury reductions in manufacturing with a focus on hand injuries, and the duration of psych injury claims for first responders were a couple of those objectives that we met, and we were quite excited about that. Some that were close to target was reducing motor vehicle crashes in this province. We had set a pretty robust target to hit a 30% reduction. We hit a 25% reduction, so it was close. Again, you got to factor in that COVID was during this time as well, so maybe not as much traffic on the road. Falls from heights, we wanted to see a 25% reduction. We hit a 19%, so really good progress there. Off target, though, healthcare definitely getting worse. 5% increase in serious injuries. And that's something we're seeing year over year when we look at kind of a 3 to 5 year window. And then transportation, we had set a target to reduce serious injuries by 10%, and we only hit a 3% reduction there. But overall, I always tell the story, you set a goal to lose 50 pounds and you lose 40. Is that a failure? Or is it just we're making progress? We're going in the right direction, right? So after the first strategy came to a close, we started to engage with a number of stakeholders. And I think you'll see it throughout the document. There's lots of storytelling in there, lots of quotes from our stakeholders that were involved. We met with roughly 300 different people from various different groups, employer associations, organized labor, foreign worker community, Indigenous workers, students, seriously injured workers. We went as far as we could, and we heard a lot of good feedback, and it's probably on the next slide here, but some of the feedback that we did hear was the increasing prevalence of violence in the workplace. And not only in healthcare, but in education, in retail, everyone seemed to be talking about it. And I think with some of the changes that are coming in legislation, I think it's going to be something that we're all faced to deal with coming up with some prevention policies and whatnot. But I think it goes a lot further too. It's finding the right experts to tackle this issue. It's a complex one. And I'll talk about some of the work that we did with the healthcare industry last week in Saskatoon, and pretty proud of kind of what we've started there and where it might go. Increasing mental health claims. Mental health claims make up a relatively small amount of our overall claims, but they're growing in prevalence. 200% increase since presumptive legislation came in 2016. But again, it's a small number of claims. But if we do nothing today around mental health, that's just going to continue to grow in the future. And so part of this strategy does focus on mental health. Our stakeholders wanted us to weave that into the entire document where we could, and so we do have an approach that I'll talk a bit about later on. It was interesting to hear from our stakeholders, we only cover about 75% of the workers in this province. Some are exempt and work in different industries where they're not mandatory. So agriculture is one of those. And a lot of our stakeholders said, whatever resources and approaches you come up with, can you make it work for everyone? Can you make it user-friendly so that farmers could use it too? And you'll see that one of our approaches is a focus on machinery for that reason. And it was also, we saw that in the data as well. But people really wanting to help as many industries as possible. Healthcare remains a priority, definitely. Coming out of COVID, lots of burnout, mental health, violence, it's on the rise. Leadership support. So we heard lots from people that were around the table around the importance of worker engagement and the frontline supervisor and the role they play in safety. And so we've worked that into our approach going forward with our learning and prevention stream. Enforcement, again, OH&S focusing their directed inspections and using a serious injury lens to select those organizations. Again, working in partnership to put our resources in the right place. So people are, I guess if officers are showing up at the work site, you'll know why. And then data and reporting. So it was interesting over the last 5 years when you start to see the serious injury rate starting to go down, but the serious injury rate for foreign workers starting to go up. And we're only seeing half a story there. We can capture some foreign worker data just from the healthcare information, or health card number, I should say, when injury is reported. But we are seeing a trend there, and so we're trying to understand that a bit better. And Indigenous workers, we don't have a story. We need to find a good partner to share our data with, because right now it's hard to identify the trends with that community. And we heard that an interest in that, and so we're looking to address that as we speak. So the new strategy, which is a 5-year strategy, focuses on the successes that we had in the first strategy. We had both passive and active approaches. So on the passive side would be our campaigns and resources and toolkits and some of the stuff you see on TV and the radio, that sort of thing around messaging. But we also had really active approaches too. And that's where we rolled up our sleeves and worked with some of our stakeholders, brought in some experts that had tackled this issue. And I'll add that they're peer experts. They actually do the work, and I think that matters because it brings with it a level of credibility as well. And I'll talk about a couple stories of where the magic happened there with the first strategy. So again, why are we doing this? Why would we want to focus on serious injuries and fatalities? I think it goes without saying we want to prevent harm to those that are involved in these traumatic incidents, the workers, their families, their communities, their coworkers. I know from my career working in health and safety, I've actively seen the results of 2 workplace fatalities, and organizations, it takes a long time to recover from that, right? But there's also the business side as well. When you think of those 2,400 serious injuries, they account for roughly 13% of our claims overall, but over 80% of all the costs in our system each year. It's tremendous. So as an employer, if you're an employer in the room, what happens if we start to make a dent in that number? The premium dollars are going to start to go down as well. So there's a lot of costs involved with these serious incidents. So really, the prevention and learning stream, I'm going to talk a bit more about this, but this is bringing organizations together to solve a common issue. And so you can picture maybe 3 organizations coming together and us bringing in an expert and us tackling that issue together. And we've got a 4-step process that we're looking to provide, and there's learning along the way, and I'll touch on that in a moment here. But I do want to talk about where we had success with this approach in the first strategy. I know we've got some of our firefighter colleagues in the crowd here too, because this strategy really is inspired from what we did with that group. So in the first strategy, and when you look at our occupational disease data, asbestos-related cancers and firefighter cancers are the top 2 leading occupational diseases in this province. And when I started looking at the firefighter cancer stuff, I was like, I didn't even know where to begin with that. Like, that's pretty complex, right? But we ended up finding an expert. He's a firefighter himself in Dayton, Ohio, in the U.S. He's actually recovering from cancer as well, firefighter-related cancer that he got on the job as well. And we brought him to Regina. We partnered with the fire chiefs and the labor side as well from the different unions. And he walked us through an approach, and he said there's basically 25 different work processes that put a firefighter, at risk or at higher exposure to carcinogens in the job. And he walked us through the prevention that we could put in place over time to address that and mitigate those occurrences. And so we went out to 15 different fire halls. We did an audit just to see what was their current state related to prevention of cancer. And it was low, because we just had a low awareness. We didn't know where to start, right? And then together we partnered with firefighters from across the province. We created a training resource center. So we got like 2-minute videos, real live videos, where they put the GoPro on the helmet and they went in and fought different fires, that sort of thing. And then went through the cleaning procedures that you would put in place afterwards. And it's on our WorkSafe website. We've received really good feedback from across the country related to that. And that's the good work of the firefighters in this province. And 3 years later, we brought that consultant back, did another audit, and the percentage of improvement in the controls put in place related to prevention was over 100%. A lot of these fire halls really took it to heart. And so that's one success story. The other one would be related to psychological injuries with first responders. And again, when you look at the durations of psychological injuries, it's pretty much double for a first responder. And again, just through our networking and working with the University of Regina, we stumbled across the Edmonton Police Service has a really good approach. using a reintegration program. And really, it's an approach they developed about 5 years ago after an officer-involved shooting. And it's really a post-incident, pre-injury approach to peer support and keeping that worker connected to the workplace. And they saw like a 70% reduction. So when we're looking for experts, we're always looking for like the proven kind of outcome. Brought them to Regina. We trained a number of first responder organizations, and it was nice to see one of our first responder organizations return two really long-term claims just recently using that approach. And so, again, that's how this learning and prevention will work in the future. Again, our focus is on 3 industries: healthcare, transportation, and construction. Our stakeholders helped us pick those 3 sectors. However, we also wanted the strategy to resonate with the majority of workers and workplaces in the entire province. And so through data and conversation with our stakeholders, we identified 7 common issues affecting most workplaces. And I hope when you look at that list, this is informed by data. When you look at this list, I hope you at least see one that, yeah, that's a problem or an issue that we're dealing with. Because we'd love to connect. I think we've got lots of solutions in this room. And I think a part of it is sharing with each other, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel each time. Again, our strategy will follow the 5-pillar approach that we use for all of our strategies with WorkSafe Saskatchewan. Awareness is usually our campaigns and the stuff that you're seeing on TV. Education is the training we deliver. Targeting and consulting. Each year we will target specific employers with LRWS. Typically you can find 200 employers out of 50,000 that are accounting for 25% of all the injuries in the province, so it's very focused targeting. Partnerships, we can't do it alone, so we partner with well over 60 organizations to get the work done. And then enforcement is on the compliance side. I will note on the consulting side, to solve these issues related to fatalities and serious injuries, we need to really understand the drivers behind these injuries. And so our consulting service, we do offer root cause analysis. Really tough. It's been really tough to get in the door. Maybe 2 of 10 calls will result in help with an investigation, and I get it. It all comes down to trust sometimes, but we truly are trying to understand the drivers, prevent reoccurrence. It's not about issuing a fine or anything like that. So if we do reach out, please consider. So again, we want to partner with our employer organizations and labor organizations throughout the province. We have the prevention and learning stream that I will talk about here in a moment. And then we've got the compliance and enforcement stream that our partners at Labor Relations and Workplace Safety are running. It's kind of interesting when you're on the clock here. That's why I keep looking down there. Okay, so the prevention and learning approach, really, that's the approach that prevention and WCB will be leading. It's a 4-step approach, and really it starts with defining the problem. Defining the problem is a problem half solved. And so we really look at the data, and WCB has a lot of data. Your organizations have data if we dig into the inspections and incident reports. But I also want to talk about the employees at the front line, people in the know that do the work. That's the critical piece. And I'll just share a story. I spent 8 years of my career working in liquor and gaming, and you can imagine the episodes of violence that we had to deal with. And when we dug into what was the driver of violence, after talking with the employees, looking at the footage, looking at the incident reports, really the majority of the time it was somebody, one of our workers, going and blocking the exit and trying to prevent somebody from leaving that was trying to steal a bottle. So that was the behavior or the condition that we had to really focus in on if we were going to make a difference. As a safety professional, I could have sat in my office, came up with a program or a policy and launched that and did an awareness campaign. But if it didn't deal with that one issue, it wasn't going to change the outcome. And so we focused in on that one behavior, educated the staff about how, this isn't for the minutes, but a bottle of liquor is not very expensive. It's marked up quite a bit, right? So we had to educate them that they could let the customer leave with the bottle. We had cameras at every exit. They take a still photograph. The police know most of these people because many of them are just chronic thieves. And we changed that behavior overnight. And in healthcare, we had folks from Australia here last week, and they shared their two main drivers. Again, trying to stop a patient from leaving the hospital. They want to go for a smoke and you're saying no, or you're completing a procedure when they say no. So it's like, it's time to change your clothes and he doesn't want to. Or I got to pull out the catheter and the person doesn't want it pulled out. So things like that were really interesting because it was along the same path of really understanding the driver before you come up with the solution. And then based on risk, we pick area to focus on, solution, bring in an expert with a proven approach, and that proven approach might be in this province, it might be in a different industry, it might be across the globe. And we're looking to support our industry with bringing the right people to the table. Sit down with 3 different organizations, come up with a plan, because how you implement matters. You know, the technical safety solution is part of the solution, but safety is about people. And so change management, engagement, involving people is the other half of the equation. And I think that's something we have to focus on more and more as we go forward. We do have different operational actions in our plan here. I'll just touch on a couple of them. On the prevention and learning stream side, we need to build capacity for training in the province. So right now, our staff in prevention spend a lot of time in the classroom. And so we're looking to build training standards and trying to spread that out to other organizations, safety associations, and private industry to do that work so that we can do more time consulting in the field. Our first training standard on asbestos will be rolled out soon, and that's a standard that we adopted from Alberta and customized to fit our legislation in Saskatchewan. Again, we'll focus on targeted communications, research best practices to solve these issues, and integrate mental health into our strategy. And I'll talk a bit about that as we go forward. Again, we've got a number of performance measures at a high level. We're looking to reduce the total injury rate, decrease fatalities in the province, decrease serious injuries, and have our ongoing risk-based enforcement approach. Again, we don't have specific targets yet because we want to set those with our customers this time. Last time we arbitrarily set some lofty goals. We actually want to set them with our customers based on what they think they can achieve. So as we go forward, we're looking to report out on a regular basis, probably every 6 months, our progress. And that's where the more direct measures will start to be reported out. And so some of our learning collaboratives is what we're calling this, is when you bring the 3 customers together to solve an issue. Some of our lead-out learning collaboratives are focused in healthcare, obviously. They are the driving factor behind injuries in this province. And we're focused on violence and ergonomics, specifically patient handling. We need to start taking another look at that. And again, last week, as it relates to violence, we brought in 2 folks from Western Health in Australia. They flew them to Saskatoon, and they spent a week here in Saskatoon, and they really enjoyed the hospitality of the city. We gave them a long list of things to go see, and they went and had the Saskatoon pie at the Berry Barn, said it was the best they ever had. They went to Walmart, because they don't have one over there, and bought Michael Jordan shoes. So there's some pretty cool things, different cultural things that we actually have to offer. But they brought their approach to the health authority around violence prevention. It's pretty cool. They saw an 80% reduction in their violence in that country with this approach by making violence, it's a vital sign that's checked every half hour as part of the nursing chart. And so we talked with the medical personnel there and I think we met with probably over 300 or 400 leaders over the course of the week on a change management approach to tackle violence in healthcare. And so really looking forward to where that might go next. And then Alberta Health Services is looking to help us with ergonomics and sharing some of their lessons learned for improvement. In construction, there was a will to focus in on mental health. And so we partnered with the Merit Contractors Association, and we're partnering with 4 small construction companies to implement a psychologically safe workplace. If you haven't checked it out already, on the WorkSafe website, we do have a Psych Health and Safety Resource Center, and there's a ton of tools on there, toolkits for small business, videos that really explain each of the 13 factors. So there's a lot of awareness. And with this strategy, we got a community of practice that we've formed, and it's going from knowledge to action now. So really, with Dr. Samra, she's going to be partnering with us with those 4 organizations, and we'll help those organizations assess psychosocial factors in their work environment, come up with an action plan, and then continuously improve. And our goal is to really work the kinks out with that strategy and then make it more broadly applicable. So if that's an interest for your organization, to join one of those groups in the future, it's something to think about. This really just shows the process at a high level that we'll be going through, but Dr. Samra wrote the Guarding Minds assessment and stuff like that, and so we'll be using those tools among others to assess the work site and just helping the leaders lead that change at their work site. But again, worker feedback was critical. You're going to see some pretty gut-wrenching stories in that strategy document. You're going to hear some quotes from our customers. And this strategy really is for Daryl, Tyler, and Josh. And we'll watch one of their videos here shortly, but Daryl lost his leg and almost his life after the gate of a gravel dump truck closed on both of his legs when he was in the back of the truck. Tyler Galloway is recovering from a traumatic brain injury after colliding with a semi-truck on the highway. And Josh Forrest has above-knee amputation after contacting a staph A bacterial infection. He twisted his ankle, and then it got infected and lost his leg. So those are things that can happen in our workplaces, but I'm pretty proud that these 3 fellows, that they're able to tell their story in an effort to help make positive change in the future. So I think what we'll do is, we got a bit of time here, we'll listen to Daryl's story. And we have different lengths. This will be the shorter length one.
I'm not technically supposed to be here. I was never supposed to survive. I was never supposed to get out of that trailer alive. I'm Daryl Gerbach, 52 years old. Drove truck for just under 30 years at the time of my accident. So got quite a few years of driving. And as I was falling down to the ground from inside the trailer, I heard the swish of air, which meant the gates were suddenly closing, which meant it wasn't locked out. I couldn't get my legs up in time, and the gate closed around both legs just above my knees. I have a lot of pride in my work, and I let that get in the way of safety. And I shouldn't have, and neither should anybody else.
Again, we've got those videos. We've got those videos on our website, different lengths if you want to show them at safety meetings. I think you'll see some of them on the break. We have a 5-minute clip of each individual sharing their story as well. So how can you get involved? I urge you, there's a sign-up form that you can access on our website, but you might be sitting in a situation where you've got a promising practice or an approach that's working for one of those 7 issues that I shared earlier, whether it's falls or motor vehicle crash prevention or ergonomics that you might want to share. Really, your commitment, if you're wanting to share something, is probably about 2 to 3 hours of your time. We have a very structured approach that we're looking to deploy with these learning collaboratives. Or you might be on the other side where it's like, we've got this stubborn issue that we can't figure out. We've been struggling with it. We'd like to be a member of a learning collaborative. Again, we've got a number of modules that we'd take you through at your own pace, whatever you're comfortable with. About 12 different modules, very much learn do. So it's like, here's 15 minutes of learning a new concept and then 45 minutes of going and apply it. So it might be observing the workers on the website or on the work floor to understand what's going on, that sort of thing. But urge you to get involved. That's kind of the call to action. I think us all working together and building our network is going to be one of the ways that we move the needle. You can access our strategy on the website. You've also got a hard copy on your desk there. Please reach out if you're interested. With that, I guess I've got 6 minutes left on the counter here, so I did okay with managing the time, but happy to take any questions if you have them. I don't know if people have a microphone or whatnot, but we'll do our best here. Thank you very much.